Well, we're here in this incredible exhibition of Gennadiy Ivanov's paintings in the Hostry at Norwich Cathedral, and I just came in to visit this from Canada, and it's so compelling to see these iconic Canadian landscapes in such a beautiful place, but also a terrible beauty to everything that we see here, because the scientific message is a grim one. We developed a tremendous understanding of these environments and now are apprehending the rapid changes that they're undergoing, which is making them unrecognizable within our lifetimes. And Gennadiy has captured this so beautifully here in such a compelling way. You feel it in your heart as well as in your head. And so I'm very grateful that this has happened, and I expect this is just a start. Thank you.
Thank you.
On 20, we talked about how this was painting. You came back and said, I don't think that's quite right.
Well, in fact, it was painted as it used to look in the 1990s. This station was set up in 1998, and the instruments were all set well above the shrub heights. So the shrub heights would have been down in here at that time. And then came back a few years later, and we had a camp nearby, and sitting at the camp and looking at the station, and I'm going, why did I set the station up like this? This is absurd. Why did I put the instruments measuring radiation, wind speed, temperature in the shrub canopy? That makes no sense at all. And then my colleague said, John, you didn't. And then we dug through photographs and
We got the photographs.
Yeah, the photographs to prove it. We set this up very sensibly at the time. And in fact, we measured vegetation heights. And so now we're looking almost 25 years later at this time, and the station itself is being overwhelmed by shrubs. It's ending up under what is literally a forest canopy.
Yeah. And that's a rapid rate of growth for this part of Canada, I guess.
It's a rapid rate in any part of the world. This is not a forest. This is not a forested area. This is Arctic tundra becoming forest.
Yeah. What do you think of the way in which Gennadiy has put these, what can be seen as sort of black seeds? I don't think they are black seeds in reality.
It's the black seeds and also the blackness of the willows themselves, which had that. But I love it how he captured the flame. The willows become very red in spring as they come to life, and it's almost like flames in this case, which it is in a sense, because this is where we can see climate warming, and this is where we can see perhaps the destruction of the science that might help us through this.
And to my mind, this is a way in which, an indication of the way in which this project is being successful. There's a genuine exchange between Gennadiy the artist and scientist.
Right. I mean, this is a place where sometimes you have moments where the horror of what's happening hits you. This is one of the places where we realized, this is not just model outputs and graphs and things like that, and then it gets you in your gut that something you built has changed completely. Yeah. And so to be able to share that with the public, and for the public to share that moment of discovery behind this beautiful Mount Lorne, behind it with its still high snowfields existing, but clearly melting permafrost along its sides, and the threat coming there as well is particularly powerful.
So Gennadiy saw this location in April.
Yes.
25 years ago, what would this location have looked like in a typical April?
Would have been very, very white. Any shrubs would be buried under the snow. In fact, when during the winter, the shrubs collect snow on the branches and they bend over, and so they appear much shorter than they actually are. So, but this is winter would still be April a few years ago, and the people would be riding snow machines, skidoos, up until early May in this area. So it was remarkable, in fact, to not have that in early medieval this year.
So should Gennadiy go back in a few years' time when the shrubs are up there?
Yeah, you have to periodically visit this, and
Wow. Yeah.
this station we're going to leave as is
Very.
forever.
For real.
And then,
So do you use
someday
this
people
station?
come by and say, "Oh, there's a tall forest here. Why would they put a short little weather station out here under a tall forest?" Much as you can go into New England now and find stone walls in the forest and say, "What happened here?" Lots.
Is it still working station? Yeah.
It's still working, and Wolf Creek is still carrying on. So we're about 28 years of measurements.
But you decided not to cut off around
No,
shrubs.
we'll let this develop. As
You want to see how it's okay. That's great.
So
So it's part of a kind of practice, study to understand. Yeah.
So, good job on this one, Gennadiy.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you.
This painting is iconic and very, very powerful. Every scientist who sees it gets very excited because scientists set up weather stations like this. But scientists very rarely set weather stations in places like this. Normally it's a mown grass and next to an airfield in a valley bottom in the mountains or something. This is up on a mountain top on a ridge called Fortress Ridge. And the mountain here is called the Fortress. There's a former glacier back in here, which is now gone, and I think you've captured that very well, the loss of that. There's a bit of a debris-covered glacier and rock glacier left over, but it's a deglaciated landscape. That glacier disappeared within living memory. An older resident of the area remembers when there was ice there. And this environment as a whole has had 3 to 4 degrees of winter warming since the 1960s. And at the lowest elevations, the snowpacks have dropped to half of what they were in the 1960s. At the high elevations, it hasn't lost snow yet. It's still a very windy, snowy place. But our models running forward for this area predict by the end of the century another month and a half of summer here. And so we're trying to calculate what the vegetation will do in this area. But our expectation is that some of the trees will suffer from drought and have some dieback, but other species that are more able to withstand drought will see forestation and movement of forests up into this landscape here. This environment is also very, very important because these are the headwaters of major rivers that provide drinking water and agricultural irrigation water and water for hydropower for the whole Pacific Northwest of the United States and for Western Canada. So from Manitoba west to British Columbia, from Montana to Idaho to Washington State, and even the hydropower generator from places like this powers places as far south as California. And so the whole Western North American economy is dependent upon the snow and ice resources in this area and the water that comes from these places. So we call them sometimes the water towers of the world, and what better water tower should we have than the Fortress?
And isn't it interesting how this tower, the automatic weather station, adds to the drama of the painting?
It does, and that's an interesting way. In a sense, we have a tower with a tower. But we have this spindly human tower next to this grand natural tower. And this almost looks like something we dropped on Mars or something like that. I think we have to make sure that we're not the Martians on our own planet. That we're.
I was talking to a visitor to the exhibition a couple of days ago, and she wasn't a scientist, but she said this was her favourite painting because of the drama, and she described this as the sort of forbidding mountain in the background with this weird superstructure in front of it. So your automatic weather station is this weird superstructure.
Norfolk artists and scientists view art and science over climate change. Hello, you're watching Norfolk Headline News. I'm Ben Baldwin. Welcome to the show. Norfolk artists Gennadiy Ivanov and Trevor Davies, former Pro-Vice-Chancellor for Research and Director of the Climate Research Unit at the UEA, have combined to represent the aspects of climate change and its impacts in visual art in order to increase awareness in a wider section of people. They have just returned from Canada, a country which is amongst those most greatly affected by climate change. And our reporter Amy Beth Steadman went along to the exhibition to find out how it went.
Transitions is an interdisciplinary project creating a fusion between science and art, highlighting the impacts of climate change.
I thought it would be a good idea for Gennadiy to see a dramatic landscape where there are dramatic impacts of climate change. Got in touch with my colleague John Pomeroy, who worked with me at the University of East Anglia many years ago, about whether it would be possible for Gennadiy to join a research trip to Canada.
They show me the problems and main impacts with climate change in Canada. It's actually what affected all the planet.
So why Canada?
Northwest Canada is one of the bellwether areas of the world. The rate of warming in Northwest Canada has been 2 or 3 times the average global warming. It's been terribly important that Gennadiy did come and see what's involved in science research. It was equally important that we, the scientists, understood his methods and techniques. How did he do things?
In the words of David Attenborough, the collapse of our civilizations and the extinction of much of our natural world is on the horizon.
It was quite disturbing, and yes, it was interesting. This is a science project and it's expedition. I realize it's very impressive because we're losing nature, we're losing the animals, we're losing beautiful world. Everything what's going on in social, in nature, it's affecting us as well.
The chief of the Gwich'in tribe has described, a few days before we were there in April, described watching the impacts of climate change on his people as like watching a nuclear explosion in slow motion. It has that big an impact.
Transitions is about raising awareness in a unique way that evokes emotive responses that sometimes science cannot.
It's quite emotional in a way, and a number of scientists have said that. Those of us who've worked in this area for decades. And interestingly, in this visitors to this exhibition, there's a comments book, and they say the same thing. Wow, this is stunning.
People said it's magnificent, and it's really, really giving people to understand the depth of problem. Lots of scientists visiting as well, and they absolutely impressed and love it, and they deeply understanding the problem. Everyone reading the captions, and everyone's said it's very clear and very understandable. It's very interesting.
600 scientists in Canada have seen some examples of Gennadi's work. From a scientist's point of view, that seems to have been successful. How Gennadiy has visualized some of what he's seen makes sense to us from a science point of view. I have been struck by people coming up to me when I've been in this exhibition area saying, I really hadn't understood what climate change was about until I saw these paintings.
The project to increase public engagement by fusing art with the science of climate change runs until the 28th of July in the Norwich Cathedral, Hostry. From the 22nd until the 26th of July, transitions will also showcase at the Forum during the Young Norfolk Arts Festival, including 18 local artists. Because of the unprecedented access to a global network of climate scientists, there is a realisable prospect of the project growing and evolving for exhibitions around the world. Amy Beth Stedman, That's TV.